With OCD, you have got a situation where you are intolerant to uncertainty. You hate that. You do not like that. You want an answer. Even if it's the answer you don't want to hear, you still want that. You want to know, is this going to happen, even if it's something you don't want? It's that low frustration tolerance to an uncertain sensation internally. That's what it is. You've got this low frustration tolerance to an uncertain sensation internally. So as soon as you feel that, you don't want that, you don't trust that, you internally reject that, then comes the compulsions and so on. Of course, you've got the anxiety cycles in relation to harm OCD, all the themes of OCD that are a little bit more complex than just uncertainty, obviously, hence why we work with unconditional self-life and other acceptance. But much of our problems comes from wanting to escape this moment, this second, wanting to run from this when it's uncertain and not what we like, not when we don't like that feeling or we don't know. People often say, I'd rather just know I have that disease than waiting in the doctor's waiting room. That's the worst part. That's the scariest part for me. I can't stand that part. And so there's so much of that all lingering in that uncertain territory internally. It's an internal sensation of uncertainty. We want certainty. Everything's sold to us on certainty. If you go and buy a car, the picture of the car in the showroom is usually a couple opening the door of the car, the children in the back, the car interior looking comfortable, and a green field or a nice restaurant parked by the car to convey the image of comfort and safety and relate to the people that would likely buy that car. Now that is exactly the same in situations with everything we're buying, doing, choosing, everything. It's relating to our ideas of how we think about certainty. Certainty is what humans want. Because uncertainty, they relate to danger. Now the problem is, we think we want that certainty, but that uncertainty is where all the magic and all the amazing things happen. You know, things that are more certain aren't as exciting. If you were doing an investment, for example, and it was the safest thing out, it'd probably offer a very low return. So it's not going to be very exciting, but it's going to be very safe. So if you look at a situation where, I was going to quote somebody there, but I've forgotten the philosophy quote, but it's basically saying if you want a life that's completely certain, well, it's more or less like being dead, because there's nothing happening. It's just so rigid. There's no excitement. We want uncertainty. We want to go with a balanced approach. We don't want to be signing up for every extreme sport and taking crazy risks in our careers and everything. We can do, but it's not always the best outcome. It's best to have a balance. But then take things a bit more riskily at other times, depending on what kind of things you're doing and what kind of things you want. So this is a very important area to navigate in life. You definitely do not want a life that's so certain, that feels so certain, because it's always an illusion. People often think, okay, I'll spend more time at home, I'll stay in bed, that's all nice and certain and comfortable. That ain't certain and comfortable. You're missing your life because you're at home, so you're missing the things that you could have done. Not easy to do when obviously you're suffering from OCD really tight, can be very difficult to do. But you're not, every day that goes by is happening. Whether we stay in bed, whether we stay in the house, every day is still ticking over. So life's uncertainty. We don't know what's coming. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going on in our own bodies. We don't know anything like what we think we do. And it's so key, because we tend to think with our body, oh, I zoom in on that mole, for example, that needs to be checked for cancer. But then we miss all the other internal organs, thinking, oh, they're all right. Oh, I'm sure my liver's all right, my heart's all right and everything. And we tend to go along that line, but that's because we are thinking that those parts are certain, whereas internally we have no idea what's going on. I could have cancer right now, have no idea. I could be dead in 2 months and have no idea that was coming. This is all in the realm of possibility. And we know it happens because it happens to other humans. And we see it happen, but we never think it happens to us, okay? So that's a key part, because what tends to happen is we tend to have this illusion of certainty in ourselves. Someone had asked me years ago, and this was a key part of recovery, do you think you'll ever get a disease? I think, no, it's unlikely. I'm fit, healthy. No, that happens to somebody else. But it happens to me, but I didn't think that, because at that time I was living in this very rigid mindset, very certain in my head of everything. Like everything felt almost like a just so rigid and black and white views, how I was thinking. So nothing outside of that spectrum was being sort of taken in by me, until now, where I see it through this journey as I've gone along. Things are uncertain. It's very uncertain territory, life, and the things I work through and that I go through. Hugely uncertain. I've got no idea what's coming. I've got no idea what's happening. I could get OCD. I could have a bad OCD again in the future. I think it's unlikely, but I can't guarantee it. Nobody can. Someone could be sober for 40 years. They can't guarantee they wouldn't drink again. They think it's unlikely, but there's no guarantee. So that is so important to register in your mind, because we tend to have these kind of rose-tinted glasses that we have as humans. If you think like something bad happens in the past, we tend to forget how bad it was. If you think of women with childbirth, if they remembered exactly the pain through history, then people would probably have less babies, but people don't, because they forget a lot of things. I'm talking more in history with a lot of, in the past, where it was obviously very high risk and lots of dangers, because we tend to keep moving, and that's how we've moved on through evolutionary through our lives, because we've been able to view the world sort of optimistically and sort of block out in a kind of see things differently. Like, if you even look at your own life and you think of the past and you think of high school or something, you think, oh, this was a great memory, that's a great memory. You actually think back to those times. A lot of those times was very, very miserable. But you thought, maybe they weren't. But you think, looking back, you look at them with rose-tinted glasses, because our mind does that. Things aren't exactly how we think they are. It's how we interpret them and how our mind interprets them going backwards. So it will often view it very differently.